Olá! O programa Saúde com Ciência de hoje recebe Sebastien Carpentiere. O pesquisador é professor da Universidade Católica de Luven, na Bélgica, e membro da Organização da Biodiversidade Internacional. Quem conduziu a entrevista foi o professor e doutor Nelson Barros Colauto. Acompanhe!
Hello, here we are with Dr. Sebastien Carpentiere, professor of the University of Luven, Department of Biosystems in Belgium, and member of Biodiversity International Organization. Well, welcome to Brazil at the Paranense University.
Thank you.
I'd like to know if this is your first time in Brazil.
No, actually not. I married a Brazilian woman, so I'm here many times to visit family, of course, but I'm also here quite often for work.
Then Portuguese, I suppose, is one of your languages that you quite can speak.
Yes, indeed. If you come to Brazil, you need to understand the language, and you need. I'm trying. I still improve my Portuguese, but I understand quite a lot indeed.
Yeah, that's good. I read that you speak 3 different languages quite well. That's Dutch, French, and German. And people in Belgium start learning all the 3 languages because they are the official language at school. How kids manage at the first levels to learn so many different languages? And I suppose English is another language that you have to learn.
Exactly, it's quite a challenge. Belgium is a very small country, and we have our 3 official languages. So every kid starts to learn, to have school, to have education in their own language. In my case, it's Dutch, which is my mother tongue. And so kids start education in Dutch, and then when they are 10, they start introducing the language of French. And they have this until they are 18, so you need to learn French until you're 18. And when they are 12, we introduce English because it's an important language to communicate to the world. And so also this they get until they are 18, and many different times also educations further in universities that start to be in English as well. And then of course German is a smaller community in Belgium, but also children are confronted with the German language when they are 16. But this is quite close to Dutch, so for us it's quite easy to understand. You can compare like Spanish and Portuguese, Dutch and German are like similar languages.
Okay. Then when we are at the university level, we start all the lectures and the learning in English, or we are having Dutch or other language as well?
Well, in the past, people were fighting to have education in their own language, so in Dutch, because it used to be in French. Right. University was in French in the past, right. And then it changed, and now people have the education in Dutch. But this is for bachelors. Normal, the tendency is, especially because visiting students come in, and Dutch is a very small language, so they try to change this. So master level tends to be also nowadays more and more in English. And then of course in the French part is in French, and also the masters now start to be introduced the English language.
Is it confusing for kids at the beginning, too many languages to learn?
Well, I can imagine it sounds quite confusing and difficult from an outsider to see at that. But if you're confronted with the different languages as a kid on the streets, at school, normally kids pick up quite well, and they're doing quite well.
Okay, I think everybody's doing that. They just go with everybody learning many languages, because at home to learn their own language is quite a challenge.
Yes.
Other language
exactly.
is something that you have to really enjoy, otherwise it's quite difficult.
Yeah, and everybody has his own talents too, which also plays a role. That's true. That's true.
And I see that in your qualifications of writing and reading and speaking, the three languages, German that you speak least, and Portuguese that you speak better than German, then, well, we have already answered that, but tell me about it. How does it happen because it's not everybody, even married with somebody that speak other language, is eager to learn it.
Yes, that's true. Like I said, you need to have talent, and I really love languages too. It interests me, and I must say we were talking about the different languages at school, but I had 2 other languages at school, just let's say for fun, because from I was 13 years old, we learned Latin.
All right.
And I started to have Latin and Greek. I had Latin for 6 years. And I had Greek for 4 years, because then I decided to drop the Greek because I wanted to become a scientist. Otherwise, there was no time to learn all the sciences.
Well, I have read about some of your work, and very interested that you have worked in Central Africa. Then tell a little bit about your experience there. Then what did you do there? Why did you choose to go there? Or was a project, was kind of adventurous at the same time, because you live in a different environment than Africa. That's everything very open and more wild. Tell me about the place, your experience as a scientist and then a person.
Yeah, well, I'm passionate about agriculture and about the developments in agriculture, and in terms of agriculture, there is a lot that needs to be developed, also from education based. And so I've also always been fascinated by tropical plants, and so it seems like a logical combination if you combine tropical plants with agriculture to end up in places like Central Africa, which is a really nice and challenging environment, but you can do really big things with small injections of research. That's nice to see the outcome of that.
Which place of Africa have you been?
So we mainly work with the regions Congo, Uganda, Tanzania. This is also from historical regions. Belgium cares about this region, and
it's about a colony. It's kind of.
Yes, we are not proud of this colonial history, of course, but the past is what the past, but now we still have a really nice connection with the area, and also the government of developmental cooperation is investing a lot of money for us to do research to help people from that region.
Yeah, that's quite good, and it explains a lot the link between the countries. And well, we told them about they are interested in tropical plants, and Europe has not a better environment to grow bananas, and a lot of difficulty, but you have large experience in researching with them. Then what's interesting in that is something from the government, is something personal that you want to work that, and what's interesting about it?
So also there it's history, because our university used to have a department in Congo. And the professor over there, they realized that there were some unique bananas over there. You should realize that the center of origin of bananas is in Southeast Asia. So all the bananas, people start migrating and took so many crops along over the world. And this migration happened so long ago that in Africa, you have special species, and those professors, they were realizing that there was something unique there in Africa that did not exist in Asia, and they started bringing it back to Luven, and then they had the idea, let's collect all the different banana species from all over the world, and they started the banana gene bank in Luven. So now we have the world collection of bananas in Luven, and that's how all the work started, basically.
Is that the biggest gene bank?
Yes.
Yes. That's quite interesting.
Yes.
And what's motivated that experience in Central Africa that's motivated to work specifically with bananas?
Yes. For instance, if you consider a country like Uganda, bananas are really, really important there. It's their main staple food. Like you eat rice and beans, in Africa they eat plantains. Right. So it's their main starch source, and it's very important over there. So we are really happy to, with our knowledge that we develop, to develop agriculture, and the choice, specifically the choice of the right variety in the right place.
Right.
If you look towards agriculture now, you see that many companies develop their specific elite varieties,
Right.
but I think it's not good that you can think that this elite variety can be grown all over the world. You need to specifically look towards the agroecological zone, and you need to choose the right variety that grows best in this zone. That's how we think we call them climate smart varieties.
Right.
Also with climate change now, we need to be able that we can anticipate problems that will come.
Right, that's very nice. Well, we will stop just a moment and return back soon talking about more with banana research. Don't miss it.
Capacitar profissionais para atuação na área de plantas medicinais. Esse é o compromisso do mestrado profissional em plantas medicinais e fitoterápicas na atenção básica da Unipar. Recomendado pela CAPES, com 2 linhas de pesquisa e moderna infraestrutura, o curso tem como objetivo formar mestres que contribuam com o setor produtivo e com o sistema público de saúde na área da fitoterapia. Venha fazer parte desta equipe de sucesso. Unipar, um espaço para o seu talento.
Eu estou aqui para te apresentar a Unipar Social. Você sabia que a Universidade Paranaense é uma instituição comprometida também com a comunidade externa? É isso mesmo! Além de oferecer todo o suporte necessário para os seus alunos, ela investe todos os anos em mais de 300 projetos que beneficiam cerca de 1 milhão de pessoas, direta e indiretamente no seu raio de influência. E eu tenho mais uma boa notícia para te dar. Agora você fica por dentro de todas essas ações acessando o site social.unipar.br. Unipar Social, transformando projetos em benefícios.
Capacitar profissionais para atuação no campo da biotecnologia agrária. Esse é o compromisso do mestrado e doutorado em Biotecnologia Aplicada à Agricultura da Universidade Paranaense. Recomendado pela CAPES. Com moderna infraestrutura e corpo docente com formação internacional. O mestrado em Biotecnologia Aplicada à Agricultura da Unipar prepara os melhores mestres e doutores para o mercado de trabalho. Venha fazer parte desta equipe de sucesso. Unipar, um espaço para o seu talento.
Hello, welcome back, and we continue our interview with Dr. Sebastien Carpentiere. Well, we're talking about the research that we're doing about bananas. I read recently that Iceland claims that they are the biggest producers of bananas in Europe. It's not the biggest producer of bananas in the world, because India is the biggest producer. But, wow, how imagine how they manage to get bananas to be produced, because they need a lot of sunlight, many hours, and it's a thing that you may not find all over the year. How do they manage there to produce bananas in Belgium?
Well, we don't produce a lot of bananas in Belgium itself. We do, of course, have a tropical greenhouse, but you see, you need to put a lot of energy in there. You need to have extra lights so that they grow well. So economically, I think if you would start producing bananas in Belgium, it's not a wise decision
Yes.
for the moment. But we do have our lab models. So we have our gene bank, we have our biodiversity in Luven, and it's my dream to explore this whole collection. So what we do is we wake them up. Our collection is banana plants in small glass tubes.
Right.
That's how we store them. And so I take them out of there, we grow them, and we observe them. So we simulate the climate of East African highlands in our lab. It's a big container. And the plants grow there, and we simulate also the stress situations. And so we observe them during 8 weeks, and we have like cameras to observe the growth, and we calculate how fast they grow. And how fast growth is retarded because of stress situations.
Right.
And so we can select from our collection those varieties which have a good growth in African highland conditions.
Yeah, that's very nice. Well, that's interesting that when I was in England, I saw some people cultivating bananas in a greenhouse as well. Then it was quite interesting because, well, why do they want to research that has this tropical plant and it used to be grown in tropical areas? Is that because Belgians love bananas as British do?
Yes, there also banana has so you have the developmental part, but it has also an economical part, because you know bananas are mainly cultivated in Latin America, and then they harvest them green, they put them on a boat, and you might have heard of the port Antwerp, which is the biggest port to import the bananas. Right. And so a whole economical industry developed in Belgium to treat the bananas, to ripen them,
I see,
and to export them all over Europe. So there is not only chocolates and beers that is exported from Belgium, it's also ripened bananas that arrived in the port of Antwerp.
Maybe the biggest exporter of bananas.
In Europe, for sure it is. Yes, sure.
Yeah, that's interesting. They produce no bananas, but export a lot of bananas. It's quite common.
Exactly.
Well, I think that's a national interest as well, then the support of the trade market that you have already developed. Yeah. That's very good strategy. And you told that you use in vitro cultivation of plants, and you do some cryopreservation of the plants. Do you use a technique that's called vitrification? Can you tell about that in plants? We work here with fungi and basidiomycetes quite specifically because they do not produce asexual spores. Then you have to cryopreservate the mycelium. That's quite challenging. Tell me about the vitrification that you use there.
So yes, indeed, as I told you, the in vitro means that the plants are in protected environments, so they are in glass plates. But this collection is our working collection. If we would, the collection is 30 years old. So if we would keep those plants for 30 years like that, they would completely change because they still continue growing. So this is not an option. It's our working collection, but it is not how we preserve the biodiversity. To preserve the biodiversity, as you said, this is through cryopreservation. It means that you take, let's say, stem cells and you put them in liquid nitrogen at minus 196 degrees.
Right.
And if it's safely stored there, and so they can store there forever. This is a safe collection of biodiversity.
Right.
But the problem is, you can put something in the freezer. If you take it out, it still needs to grow and to develop.
Yes.
And this is where your vitrification techniques comes in. Plants contain a lot of water. And you know, if you put something into freezing temperatures, they form ice crystals. Right. And those ice crystals will kill the cells and everything will die. So to avoid that, you need to apply this vitrification technique where you can freeze things without forming ice crystals, so that it's not only a matter of freezing your collection in, you should assure that if you wake it up, that you still conserve this biodiversity, that it's still alive.
Do you use a specific cryoprotectant?
Yes, we use specific products that we add. It's like a mixture, we call it PVS2 in technical terms. It's a mixture of different cryoprotectants, so that it's always a balance between being toxic for the cells and forming ice crystals, and you need to see the right procedure in this, yes.
Right, that's right. Then most of them use a vitrification technique, or do you use another ones?
There's many developments in cryopreservation, but the best one is the droplet vitrification, which uses this technique indeed. So that has been developed in our lab by my colleague Bart Panis.
Right, that's a very nice field of research. And you are a member of the editorial board of the journal Frontiers in Plant Science and many others. In particular, I'm interested to develop talk about this journal, because this journal it's an important journal with a high impact factor in the agriculture areas. For that area, it's a high level, and but it is quite expensive, the fees for publication. Why is that? Because there's a lot of quite good other juniors that can manage without fees or smaller fees. Why that?
Exactly. This is a very important point. It's also an economical model in a way, you must say. But how to explain this? Journals are always expensive. In the past, it was hidden behind a wall. It was protected. If the public wanted to read something, you needed to pay to read the article. In practice, for universities, it's the universities who pays really expensive fees to journals to get access to the journals. Frontiers in Plant Science has a different economical model, and they want to change it, and every article there, whoever is watching this can click and can freely download the article and read it. The downside of it is that us, the authors, need to pay to make this available.
That's in our own work.
Yes.
That's the problem. And do you think in the future is decreasing the fees? Because if you see from the Brazilian point of view, when they transfer that $2 is 3.5 times higher than anybody else because the difference of the currency, then if it's expensive to pay something as $2,000 to publish,
exactly,
it's already expensive. But if you turn that in dollars for Brazilian money, it's a kind of much more specific for Brazilians. And I see that you have a kind of waiver program, that you kind of exemption of the publication. Does it work? It's really something. What do you need to get success to get your manuscript published? And
well, first of all, it's the quality. If it's not good, it's not because you pay that something is published, of course. Right. They have a very good peer-reviewed system. What does it mean? It means that other scientists from all over the world are contacted, and if you have the expertise, they judge your article, and it's an open system. Everything is open there. Afterwards, also the names of the reviewers are published, and so it's a really open system. Everybody can check. Concerning the price and waiving, that's a difficult question, of course. This, like I said, this is an economical model. They are commercial. In the past, they got it from universities. Now they hope to get it from the people themselves. It's a different model. Now we see also in Europe that if you get funds to do research from the government, they demand that the paper is publicly accessible.
Right.
And so this would make sense. If you get public money, you use that money to pay and to make your article publicly accessible.
Right.
Dropping prices is a matter of economics, is offer and demand, so that's difficult to judge.
Right. Okay. And well, at first, I'd like to talk about your system as our education at higher levels, as a bachelor, master, PhD, postdoc. How does it work in Belgium in specific? Do you have to pay that? How long? For example, I have a friend in Spain. He was doing his PhD, and there is no time to finish his PhD. It could be 8 years, 10 years. Until he finishes his project and get the results, he will be doing. In Brazil, 4 years you have to finish your project, and whatever you have, if it's enough, you get your PhD. Could you briefly explain how it works in Belgium to understand?
We are quite proud of our education system.
Right.
You can basically say education is free in Belgium.
Right.
And it's of good quality. Primary school, secondary school is free. If you're 18 and you pass the system, everybody can freely enter university. And the system...
There's a test to
no,
get to
there is a test to end. If you're 18, there is a test to end your secondary school. Normally there is no, except a few masters, normally there's not a test to enter university. Everybody can enter, but of course there is a really strict selection.
Right.
If you don't pass, you don't pass.
Right.
And there is a system of punishments. If you don't pass a lot of courses, it's not for free anymore.
Okay.
So that's how it works. So normally people enter university when they are 18.
You pay if you cannot keep with the system and pass to
In other words,
exams.
if you're a bad student, the government will not, so they give you like kind of credits,
All right.
and you can use them to get the education, let's say, almost for free.
Right.
And the bachelor is 2 years, master's is 3 years, and then afterwards you start your PhD, which is normally 4 years.
Right.
And this is with the PhDs or with the scholarship, which are tax-free to stimulate research. Concerning your question, do they need to finish? The scholarship is 4 years, and then you're not paid longer, so this is a really nice incentive to finish within 4 years.
Right.
Because if you continue afterwards, your professor needs to pay taxes and so on and so on. So this is a really nice incentive to finish everything in 4 years.
All right. Okay. Nice to know. It's a good example. I hope you keep continuing that way. And thank you for your time in your interview. It was very pleasant, and I hope you enjoyed this time in Brazil.
Thank you. It's a pleasure too. Thank you.
Okay. And see you next time.